Ladies and gentlemen, there comes a moment in life when hesitation is your greatest enemy, when waiting becomes more dangerous than failing. Let me remind you of something powerful. Heaven never moves until you do. The doors of destiny swing open, not for those who sit and hope, but for those who dare to rise and take that bold step forward. Heaven moves when you do as a principle that separates the dreamers from the achievers, the talkers from the doers, and the passive from the purposeful. Many people spend their lives waiting for a perfect sign, a perfect condition, or a perfect opportunity to act. They hope that heaven will suddenly open a door for them while they remain seated, but that is not how destiny works. Movement is the trigger for divine alignment. The moment you take a step forward, the unseen begins to shift, and forces greater than yourself begin to respond to your faith. Faith, at its core, is never meant to be stagnant. It is not an intellectual exercise or a theory that sits in the mind. Faith is alive, active, and practical. It is a demonstration of trust that is revealed in action. When you move, you signal to heaven that you believe in what has already been promised. Without movement, faith remains dormant, but with one step forward, it becomes the language that heaven understands. That is why nothing changes until you move. Heaven is not waiting on your prayers alone. It is waiting on your action. Think of the stories of great men and women who achieved something significant. Their success did not come because the path was clear from the start. It came because they had the courage to take a step when nothing looked certain. The sea did not part until someone stepped forward. The walls did not fall until the people marched. The provision did not appear until someone dared to act. Movement always precedes miracles. When you begin to act in faith, heaven releases resources that were already prepared but hidden until you demonstrated your readiness. This is why hesitation can be the greatest thief of destiny. Waiting endlessly for certainty or for the fear to disappear only leads to wasted years. Heaven cannot partner with indecision. Action is the evidence that you trust that what is invisible is greater than what you see. The delay of many is not because heaven has not answered, but because they have not moved. You cannot expect heaven to steer a ship that is anchored at the dock. You must set sail even when the waters look uncertain, because only a moving vessel can be guided. Heaven moves when you do, because action is proof of belief. If you say you believe in opportunity, but never apply, your words are empty. If you say you trust in provision, but never begin, your confession is shallow. The act of movement validates the words of faith. It is like planting a seed in the ground. You cannot see the fruit yet, but your action shows you believe the harvest will come. In the same way, when you move toward your vision, you declare to heaven that you are ready to handle the responsibility of what you are asking for. Fear often disguises itself as wisdom. Many call their hesitation careful planning, but in truth, it is avoidance. Heaven does not require you to know every detail before you move, only to trust that the details will unfold as you progress. Light is given to each step as you take it, not before. The road of destiny is not illuminated all at once, because faith grows with each step you take. If you wait for the entire journey to be clear, you will never begin. But if you move in the dark, even with trembling steps, the path becomes brighter, and doors begin to open that you could not see before. The reason heaven moves when you do is because your movement activates what is already prepared. Resources, relationships, opportunities, and solutions are waiting, but they remain hidden until your action calls them forth. It is as though the universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to say yes to your assignment. The moment you do, the invisible hand of providence begins to orchestrate events in your favor. What looked impossible suddenly becomes achievable. What seemed closed suddenly swings open. What appeared lacking is suddenly provided. But none of it happens until you move. Movement is the ultimate declaration of faith. It is the point where your trust in heaven translates into visible courage on earth. And when you move, heaven responds. The bold step you take today is the invitation for divine alignment tomorrow. Every dream, every vision, every calling becomes reality, not when you simply believe it, but when you step toward it. That is why heaven moves when you do. Faith requires movement, because faith is not simply a belief held in the mind or a feeling that sits in the heart. It is an active force that demands expression through action. Too many people mistake faith for positive thinking or wishful desire. But true faith is far deeper than that. Faith is the willingness to move forward, even when you cannot see the full picture, the courage to take a step, even when the outcome is uncertain, and the boldness to act, even when fear whispers that it cannot be done. It is in movement that faith comes alive, because without action, faith remains invisible and powerless. When someone says they believe in their vision, it is not proven by words alone, but by the actions they take toward it. Speaking about a dream does not bring it closer, but moving toward it does. Faith was never meant to be passive. It was designed to be active, visible, and demonstrated. Just as a seed cannot grow until it is planted in the soil, faith cannot produce results until it is acted upon. You may carry the greatest dream, the greatest idea, or the greatest promise in your heart. But until you move toward it, it will remain only a dream. Faith requires movement, because movement is what shows trust. If you say you trust the bridge to hold you, but never walk across it, your words mean nothing. The proof of belief is the willingness to step on it. In the same way, if you claim to believe in the possibility of your future, but never begin to pursue it, you are only deceiving yourself. Words without movement are empty, but words with action are powerful. Faith is confirmed and validated only when it is put into practice. The beauty of faith is that it does not wait for the conditions to be perfect. It moves in the midst of uncertainty. Many people wait for all the details to line up before they take the first step, but that is not faith. That is comfort. Faith moves before the evidence is clear, trusting that the evidence will appear along the way. The path does not reveal itself while you are standing still. It reveals itself as you walk. This is why those who wait endlessly often never see progress. But those who take steps of faith often find that doors open, opportunities arise, and solutions appear in ways they never imagined. Movement is the language of faith. It is how the unseen becomes seen and how the invisible becomes tangible. When you act in faith, you release signals that align with divine provision. Your movement becomes a declaration to heaven and to yourself that you are ready for the next level. Faith without movement is like a lamp without oil, full of potential but without light. But faith with movement shines brightly because it brings forth results that could never have happened otherwise. Faith also requires movement because movement builds momentum. A small step today leads to a greater step tomorrow, and soon what seemed impossible becomes achievable. The mountain that looks too high to climb becomes conquerable when you start with one step. Without movement, the mountain remains an obstacle, but with consistent faith in motion, it becomes a path upward. This is why even the smallest act of faith matters. It may not look significant in the moment, but every act of movement strengthens your belief and opens the way for greater results. Another reason faith requires movement is because movement breaks the power of fear. Fear thrives in stillness and hesitation, but it loses its grip when you act. Every bold step you take silences fear's voice a little more. You cannot think fear away, but you can act your way through it. Fear says stay still, but faith says move anyway. Fear says wait until everything is guaranteed, but faith says step out even when nothing is guaranteed. The victory over fear comes not from waiting for it to disappear, but from choosing to move in spite of it. Faith is not measured by what you say you believe, but by what you are willing to do because of what you believe. It is easy to talk about trust, but it is costly to walk it out. Yet it is only in the walking, in the stepping, in the moving, that the promises of faith become reality. The truth is that faith that does not move is no faith at all. Faith was always meant to be visible in the choices you make, the risks you take, and the courage you display. And that is why faith requires movement. Perfection is not a prerequisite, because life was never designed to wait for flawless conditions before progress could be made. Too often people hold themselves back from stepping into opportunities, pursuing dreams, or taking bold action because they believe they must have everything figured out first. They tell themselves they need the perfect timing, the perfect resources, the perfect knowledge, or the perfect plan before they can begin. This mindset creates paralysis, a cycle of waiting that never ends, because perfection is an illusion that can never truly be attained. What is required is not perfection, but willingness. Willingness to start with what you have, where you are, and with the knowledge that growth and refinement will come through the process itself. Every great achievement in history did not begin with perfect conditions, but with imperfect beginnings. Great businesses often started in small garages. Powerful leaders often began with limited resources, and life-changing ideas were often birthed in obscurity and struggle. The people who changed the world did not wait for perfection. They moved forward with faith and commitment, and perfection was shaped along the way. Waiting for perfection is like waiting for the ocean to be calm before you ever learn to swim. The waves will always be there, but progress comes when you step in despite the uncertainty. The idea that perfection must come first is often rooted in fear. It is the fear of failure, the fear of being judged, the fear of making mistakes, or the fear of not being enough. But the truth is, mistakes are not evidence of failure. They are stepping stones to mastery. Every misstep teaches something, every flaw reveals an area to grow, and every attempt sharpens skill and confidence. If perfection were truly necessary before beginning, no one would ever achieve anything, because no one begins fully equipped. Life equips those who start, not those who wait. When you wait for perfection, you also miss opportunities that will never come back. Time keeps moving whether you act or not, and doors that are open today may not be open tomorrow. The moment you delay for the sake of perfection, you risk losing the season that was meant to prepare you for the very success you desire. Opportunities rarely arrive wrapped in neat packages with every answer included. They come raw, messy, and uncertain, requiring courage to act and faith to trust that clarity will come through the journey. The perfect time is not some distant moment, in the future. The perfect time is the moment you choose to act. Perfection is not a prerequisite because progress itself creates the refinement that so many seek. Skills improve with practice, wisdom grows with experience, and clarity comes with action. The very things you think you lack will be developed as you move forward. A person who waits to speak until their voice is flawless will never discover the strength in their message. A writer who waits for the perfect idea will never finish a book. An entrepreneur who waits for perfect conditions will never build a business. Excellence comes through action, not before it. Progress is the soil in which perfection grows, but without planting seeds of action, that soil produces nothing. It is important to understand that excellence and perfection are not the same. Excellence is about doing your best with what you have, while perfection is about an impossible standard that no one can truly reach. Striving for excellence empowers. Striving for perfection paralyzes. When you give yourself permission to act without the burden of perfection, you unlock creativity, courage, and resilience. You allow yourself to try, to fail, to learn, and to grow, which are the very ingredients required for lasting success. The truth is that the world does not need perfect people. It needs people who are willing to move, to risk, to create, and to step out despite imperfections. The world is waiting for authentic voices, real stories, and bold actions, not flawless performances. Many people hide their gifts because they fear their efforts are not perfect enough. But what they do not realize is that their imperfect action could be the very thing that inspires someone else to rise. Perfection is not a prerequisite because authenticity, courage, and persistence carry far more power than flawlessness ever could. The journey of life is not about presenting yourself as perfect from the beginning, but about embracing the process that shapes you into someone capable of carrying greater responsibility. Starting before you are ready, moving before everything is in place, and acting before you have every detail figured out is what allows growth to happen. The confidence you desire, the wisdom you seek, the skill you admire, all of it comes after you begin, not before. That is why perfection is not a prerequisite. Courage is action in the presence of fear, because true bravery is not about the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward despite it. Many people believe that courageous individuals feel no fear, that they possess some extraordinary immunity to doubt or anxiety. But the truth is that everyone experiences fear when facing uncertainty, risk, or challenge. What sets the courageous apart is not that they are free from fear, but that they refuse to let fear dictate their choices. They acknowledge its presence yet choose to act anyway. This is what makes courage powerful, because it transforms fear from a barrier into a stepping stone toward growth and destiny. Fear is a natural part of the human experience. It is the body's way of signaling danger or risk, but too often it exaggerates the threat and paralyzes progress. Left unchecked, fear becomes a prison that holds people back from opportunities, dreams, and potential. It whispers reasons why something cannot be done, why the timing is wrong, or why failure is inevitable. Yet courage is the force that breaks this prison open. It does not wait for fear to vanish, because fear rarely disappears on its own. Instead, courage accepts fear as part of the journey, but insists on moving forward regardless. Courage as action in the presence of fear is evident in countless stories of human triumph. The soldier who runs onto the battlefield does not do so without fear. He does it despite the terror in his heart. The entrepreneur who launches a business is not free from anxiety about failure. She simply chooses to move ahead in faith that something greater can be built. The speaker who steps onto the stage does not lack nervousness. He channels it into energy to deliver his message. These examples remind us that courage is not a feeling but a choice, not an emotion, but a decision to act in the face of uncertainty. One of the reasons courage matters so deeply is because fear is often strongest right before a breakthrough. The moments when fear screams the loudest are usually the moments closest to transformation. Fear senses change, and its resistance is a sign that you are stepping into new territory. If you wait for fear to subside, you may miss the very opportunities that were designed to move your life forward. Courage bridges this gap, allowing you to take the leap even when every instinct says to hold back. In doing so, you often discover that the fear was larger in imagination than it was in reality. Courage as action in the presence of fear also builds strength over time. Each time you face fear and move forward, you weaken its hold on you. The first act of courage may feel overwhelming, but with each step, confidence grows, and what once seemed impossible becomes manageable. Courage is like a muscle that develops through repeated use. The more you act in spite of fear, the less control fear has over you. Over time, what once terrified you becomes familiar ground, and you find yourself capable of greater challenges. It is also important to understand that courage is not reckless. Taking action in the presence of fear does not mean ignoring wisdom or acting without thought. It means refusing to let fear be the reason you do nothing. It means weighing the risks, understanding the costs, and still deciding that forward motion is worth it. Recklessness ignores fear and pretends it does not exist. Courage acknowledges fear, respects its warning, but does not allow it to control the outcome. This balance is what gives courage both its power and its wisdom. When you choose courage, you also give others permission to do the same. Courage is contagious. Your willingness to act in the presence of fear inspires those around you to face their own fears. Families, communities, and even nations are shaped by individuals who demonstrated courage when fear could have silenced them. One act of bravery can ripple outward, sparking change far beyond what was imagined. This is why courage is not only personal, but also collective, impacting more lives than just your own. Fear will always be part of the journey, but it does not have to define the outcome. What defines the outcome is the choice to move, to step, to act, even when fear is present. Courage proves that fear does not have the final word. It transforms hesitation into momentum, doubt into growth, and risk into reward. This is why courage is action in the presence of fear. Destiny belongs to the bold because life does not reward hesitation, timidity, or endless waiting. The greatest opportunities, the highest callings, and the most meaningful achievements are not handed to those who stand back in fear, but to those who step forward with courage and determination. Boldness is the key that unlocks doors others are too afraid to touch. It is the quality that separates those who merely dream from those who actually live out their purpose. Destiny is not for the passive. It is for the daring, the ones willing to step into the unknown with faith that something greater is waiting for them. Being bold does not mean being reckless or careless. It means being willing to take risks, to act decisively, and to pursue your vision without being paralyzed by doubt. Life is full of uncertainties, and there is no guarantee that every step you take will work exactly as you planned. Yet destiny requires motion, and motion requires boldness. If you are always waiting for certainty, you will miss the moments where destiny was ready to reveal itself. The bold understand that hesitation is more dangerous than failure, because hesitation guarantees you remain stuck, while boldness gives you the chance to move forward. Throughout history, every great leader, innovator, and difference maker demonstrated boldness in moments when fear could have silenced them. They were willing to speak when silence was safer, to act when stillness was easier, and to push forward when retreat looked more comfortable. Their bold choices not only shaped their own lives, but impacted generations. This shows that destiny is never neutral. It waits for a response. Those who shrink back often lie below their potential, but those who act boldly step into the fullness of what was prepared for them. Boldness is also what attracts favor and opportunity. People and resources are drawn to those who show courage, because boldness signals confidence, vision, and determination. When you are bold, you inspire trust in others, and they become willing to invest in your journey. Opportunities that remain hidden from the timid often reveal themselves to the bold. The world makes room for people who refuse to be ignored, people who walk with conviction and pursue their goals without apology. This is why destiny gravitates toward boldness, because boldness creates momentum that others cannot help but notice. Another reason destiny belongs to the bold is that boldness breaks the power of fear. Fear will always attempt to stand between you and your calling, whispering reasons why you cannot succeed or why the time is not right. But boldness refuses to let fear be the deciding factor. Boldness says yes in the face of uncertainty. Boldness takes the leap when fear says stay still. And the moment you act boldly, fear begins to lose its grip, and your capacity to face greater challenges increases. Each act of boldness builds resilience and expands the boundaries of what you believe is possible. Boldness also requires conviction. It is not simply about being loud or aggressive. It is about being rooted in purpose. When you are bold about the wrong things, it leads to destruction. But when you are bold about your destiny, it leads to transformation. This kind of boldness is fueled by vision, by a sense of calling, and by a deep belief that you were created for more. Such conviction empowers you to stand firm even when others doubt you, to keep moving forward even when obstacles rise, and to keep pursuing your dream even when results are slow. It is also important to realize that boldness does not mean you will not face setbacks. In fact, the bold often face more resistance because they are moving against the tide of mediocrity. Yet destiny is not shaped by a single moment of success, but by the persistence to keep moving boldly despite challenges. Each setback becomes a lesson. Each obstacle becomes training, and each failure becomes a stepping stone. Boldness allows you to see beyond the temporary and to keep your eyes fixed on the ultimate goal. In the end, destiny belongs to the bold, because boldness is the bridge between vision and reality. Dreams remain dreams until someone has the courage to chase them. Opportunities remain hidden until someone has the courage to seek them. Potential remains locked until someone has the courage to express it. Boldness is what transforms desire into destiny, what separates those who watch life happen from those who shape life through their choices. Boldness is the price destiny demands, and only those willing to pay it ever walk in the fullness of their purpose. Everything falls into place when you act in faith, because faith has the power to align your steps with opportunities, resources, and connections that you could never orchestrate on your own. Acting in faith is not about having every detail figured out, but about moving forward with trust that the pieces you cannot yet see will come together as you go. Life often feels uncertain and unpredictable, and that uncertainty can tempt you to hold back, waiting for absolute clarity before you act. But clarity is not what produces faith. Faith produces clarity. The moment you take a step, paths open, solutions appear, and people cross your way who carry the very answers you need. What seemed impossible begins to unfold, not because everything was prepared in advance for you to see, but because heaven responds to your movement of trust. When you act in faith, you signal that you are ready for what has already been set aside for you. Many times, the delay in breakthrough is not because resources do not exist, but because the individual has not demonstrated readiness through action. Acting in faith positions you to receive what was always waiting. Just like a key unlocks a door, your steps of faith unlock blessings that were hidden until you moved. This is why the right opportunities often do not show up until you begin to walk in the direction of your vision. Standing still does not reveal the way forward, but moving does. The beauty of faith is that it does not require everything to be perfect before it works. Faith thrives in the midst of uncertainty. You may not know how the entire journey will unfold, but faith assures you that as you move, everything will align in its proper time. Acting in faith is like stepping onto a dark path with a lamp that only shows the next step. Each move you make lights the way for the next. If you demand to see the entire road before you start, you will never move. But if you trust the process, the pieces will come together one step at a time. Acting in faith also changes your perspective. When you trust that everything will fall into place, you stop obsessing over control and begin to walk with peace. Stress and worry come from the need to force outcomes, but faith knows that outcomes are guided by a higher hand. Acting in faith allows you to do your part with excellence and confidence, while leaving the results to align as they should. This mindset creates focus, resilience, and the ability to keep moving even when immediate evidence is lacking. Faith teaches you to believe that unseen forces are already at work arranging what you need. The truth is that faith attracts provision. When you act boldly, you draw people, ideas, and opportunities to yourself. Others are inspired by courage, and resources flow to those who demonstrate commitment. This is why acting in faith often leads to unexpected favor. Doors you never knocked on swing open, people you never met become allies, and solutions you never imagined suddenly appear. It is not coincidence, it is the alignment of faith with destiny. What once felt like scattered pieces of a puzzle begins to fit together perfectly, because faith creates order where there was once chaos. Acting in faith also builds momentum. Each time you step forward and see things fall into place, your confidence grows. You learn that even if you do not know the details, you can trust the process. Over time, this cycle strengthens your ability to face even greater challenges because you have seen proof that faith works. The more you act in faith, the more evidence you gather that the invisible has power to shape the visible. What once felt uncertain becomes familiar because you know from experience that the pieces will come together in the right way and at the right time. Sometimes everything falling into place does not mean everything happens exactly as you plan, but rather that it unfolds exactly as it should. Faith teaches you to accept that detours, delays, and unexpected turns are part of the alignment. What feels like a setback may actually be redirection towards something better. Acting in faith allows you to embrace uncertainty without fear, because you trust that even the things that do not go your way are being used to guide you toward your destiny. In the end, you look back and realize that even the struggles were necessary pieces of the bigger picture. Everything falls into place when you act in faith, because faith invites alignment, provision, clarity, and strength into your journey. It transforms hesitation into momentum, fear into courage, and uncertainty into unfolding purpose. Without faith, life remains fragmented and confusing, but with faith, the scattered pieces of your vision begin to form a complete picture. Acting in faith activates the unseen, and the unseen brings the visible into order. It is in those steps of trust, taken when nothing is certain, that you discover everything was already waiting to fall perfectly into place.